Hello, everyone. This week, I have a guest that I actually met in San Diego like 2 years ago now, I guess. Right when I was starting out in comedy, I met Nathan Mosher, and his artist name is Nathaniel Philip Mosher. And we performed on the same show together, and it was right after I decided to move to London, and he had been in London for some time doing comedy, so he was going to give me some contacts, and it was a rare interaction because he was sincere and he meant it. And so when I did reach out to him, he did send me contacts and we kept in touch, and he's a really great guy. This podcast episode is really special, first of all, because it's coming out the same week his EP launched, and so we talk about his EP, but it's on Spotify, so you'll be able to hear it, and it's kind of cool just to be able to share a launch date week with someone and to share their story. But also, on a very serious note, we get into a lot about mental health. Suicide is mentioned and talked about. Nathan opens up about his own, I would say, just his own work with his mental health. I talk a little bit about mine as well, which I don't do very often on this podcast, and I won't get into more now, to be honest. But I really appreciate, again, how candid he was, and I've been lucky with a few guests, their candor, but this is specifically about Nathan and specifically about what he has gone through. And I think it's really important, but I also think it's important to warn people, just because someone might not be in a spot where they can listen to this right now. I think Nathan's story is really uplifting because he got through it and he continues to work really hard. And I just love this guy, and I'm really glad to share this interview with you. So I hope you enjoy the insight that you get into someone who has decided to give like their entire career to being an artist. He was going to be a doctor at one point, and he pursued the creative path, and it's really extraordinary. I actually got to perform an open on one of his solo shows that he did when he was workshopping it in Florida virtual festival during the pandemic, and it was really an honor to do that. And he's inspired me to work on my own show that I'm going to start previewing pretty soon. It's pretty exciting. So Nathan, when and if you hear this, thank you so much for being someone who I have found inspiration from creatively. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And to the listeners, thanks for being here. Again, I really hope you get a lot out of this interview. And thanks again for listening and subscribing and reviewing and everything you're doing to let More Than Work keep going. So without further ado, here you go. Welcome to More Than Work, the podcast reminding you that your self-worth is defined by more than your job title. I'm Rabia, an IT project manager, comedian, nonprofit volunteer, and sometimes activist. Every week, I'll chat with a guest about pursuing passions outside of work or creating meaningful opportunities inside their workplace. As you listen, I hope you'll be inspired to do the same. Welcome back, everyone. Today I have someone who's a writer and performer who I first met at a comedy gig in San Diego well before the pandemic, I think in 2019. So I'm really stoked to have him here and to talk to him about what he's been up to. Nathanael Philip Mosher. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So you want to introduce yourself a little bit just to the audience?
Yeah, my name's, I've been going by Nathan, but I decided to try and release everything under Nathanael Philip Mosher. I thought it sounded cooler as an artist. It's my full name, and it's got some, meaning behind it, because Nathaniel is supposed to mean gift of God. Philip means lover of horses, which is not that great. But I have a joke about that. Nathaniel means gift of God. Philip means lover of horses. And Mosher comes from marsher, which is marsh dweller. So my name means someone sent to love horses by God in marshes. I don't know if I should use I use crude language in that joke. I don't know. I don't know if I want that on the podcast.
So cool. So
Yeah,
so you've been working on that name, and you have been releasing stuff lately.
Yeah, so I was met Robbie as a comedian in San Diego, and I thought she was really funny, and I talked to her, and then she was moving to the UK, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to Edinburgh, and right before the pandemic, I started producing and writing music as well, and I've always written poetry, and I started performing, and anyways, I developed a one-man show. And I was right about to sign I signed the contract, and then I was right about to send money to do Edinburgh, and then this happened. And so I'm going to be doing the Orlando Fringe Festival in May, which was a year ago that this was supposed to happen, and it's supposed to happen at 40% capacity. And we'll see if Edinburgh happens, but now I've become this kind of, that's another reason I chose to go by my full name, is because I'm doing this whole multifaceted act. And I just felt like, okay, let me separate. Like, you know, I didn't want to be like Nathan Mosher comedian and then alter ego this and that. I was just like, they're all the same to me. Like, I don't see them all. I see emotionally, I write them from the same place. So,
yeah.
And right before the pandemic, when I would headline, I would do like everything. And I was like, this is what I got to do. And we've done stand-up shows since, like, outdoors. And I was like, yeah, I can't just do this alone anymore. I was like, I want to be up there doing music and poetry and like not just being funny. You know what I mean? Like it was more fun.
Yeah. It's more fun, even though maybe it's not laughing stuff.
Or it's like, oh, people you do music is like funny stuff. I'm like, oh, it's super sad.
Yeah, you're doing like Weird Al kind of stuff.
Like I've written like 2 or 3 funny songs. Like I have this new song that I wrote. It's just like the hook is like, shit just sucks, but I'm okay. Wrote a song, but I cried all day. And like it is funny. Like, but it came from a real place with my friend just being like, hey, you should just, like, sounds like shit. Like, there's a lot of stuff on your plate, and you don't want to acknowledge how much stuff. He's like, write a list of everything that sucks instead of a gratitude. And I was like, whoa, I've never done that. I've only done gratitude lists. Anyways, it's a part of my daily practice now. I make a gratitude list, and then I make a list of shit that just sucks. and it's funny. It works the same way, because eventually you run out of stuff to say, and then you're like, I guess I am grateful, because I can't, you try to complain about everything. You're like, I guess I ran out.
Yeah. And once you start writing the stuff that you're complaining about, then it kind of takes on a different life. Like, oh, do I really need to spend my energy being annoyed about that?
Yeah. But so, and then this whole EP is like really sad. There's like one happy song, and the rest are like melancholy. And I don't know, after I finished, I was like, man, I need to write happy songs. But I get that way in comedy too. I'll be like, oh, I'm only talking about relationships. Let me talk about politics. Or, man, I'm only talking about politics. I need to write like a poop joke. like I'll get like, oh, I don't want to be like a one-trick pony. So I'll get tired of stuff. And I'm like, I got to write other stuff.
Write more.
Yeah.
One thing I've been doing lately is at work, like I'll go to say something on a Slack or Teams or whatever I'm using, and then sometimes I'll get interrupted, and then I'll go back an hour later and I'll see like what rant I was starting, and I'm like, oh, I don't really need to do that anymore. I don't really need to send that complaint.
Yeah.
I just delete it. And I think I probably seem like happier, but it's really like I'm just busier.
Yeah.
Like not sending it. And I don't know. I think it's the same as like, yeah, you just write down the stuff that sucks, but you're not sending it anywhere, which is good. I mean, you record it in one song, but that's fine. But yeah, I think that is kind of a neat idea.
Yeah. I think when so I left stand up, and then I came back. And when I came back, when I first started writing, I read about Jerry Seinfeld doing the like X on the calendar every day. When he would write 5 or more hours, because he's insane. But
wow.
But I was like, okay, I want to write every day. So I try to do like 1 or 2 hours. And so writing was like first priority. And then like the business side of it comes in, or you trying to get booked on shows or this, you book a tour or this. And those little administrative tasks, like they're quicker and easier to finish. So you end up doing that, and then writing becomes like the last thing you do. So I was like, you know what? I got to get back to like writing has to be the first thing I do every morning, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I would drink a cup of coffee and immediately go to a coffee shop and write. And then other thing I did was like, I started organizing my jokes by theme, and like, instead of, because I was working on this one of my shows, so I was like, instead of like just trying to write jokes, it's just like, I'm just trying to write. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's funny, I'll like, tag it up and it'll become a joke, but like more like free writing. So I started doing that, and it was like every day I had to write at least an hour. And I noticed that like for the first time, writing stand-up was actually cathartic, rather than before. It's like the stage part was the catharsis,
Mm-hmm.
But I realized I was like pretty dangerous or not even dangerous. It was dangerous, but also counterproductive, because I would have like a really good show. It'd be packed. And instead of being like, oh, I could do my best stuff and get a tape and have a good set, I'd be like, oh, something just happened in my family and I need to talk about it. So like, or I have a joke that's kind of related to that, or I've been thinking about this idea, so let me try a brand new joke on a packed show because I need to get this off my chest. It wouldn't be like terrible, but it's like I could have waited to tell that joke somewhere else and work on it, and treat this more professionally, and still get the catharsis because I wrote in the morning, or I did the therapy, or I did, it's like not making the stage therapy anymore.
Yeah.
So that was helpful. So like, just, so I have so many things that I like write every day just to like go through recovery and be okay. And then the jokes are just like the best of, rather than like where I get it off my chest.
Yeah. You have a filter in a way, like,
which I guess, boundaries. I didn't have those for most of my life.
Yeah. Did you always consider yourself a writer? Because you started comedy pretty young.
Yeah, so I started performing at 17, and I was writing poetry since like really young. Like, I mean, second grade, I remember I did this. I never like thought of myself as a writer, but I was doing tons of writing in retrospect. Like second grade, we did like a poetry thing for a janitor who was leaving after 20 years of service. And I wrote a poem and I got chosen to read it in front of the whole school. Like, fifth grade, I did this young storytellers thing where I got chosen by my teacher to write a story, and you get actors to come act it out. And like this Disney Channel star, I remember, was in my play. It was fucking awesome. I was doing like speeches, like I was the fifth grade class president. And so I read a speech during graduation. So like, and I wrote that with my mom. My mom's a great writer. Really good. And so, it's like always been there. And then I'm Asian. So like the default is doctor. And I was smart. So like, I was like, English is technically, even though I majored in that, it was technically my weakest subject, but it's like not weak because like, for example, I got 5s, which is perfect scores on all the AP tests. And I got 4s on English, which is still like an A. It's still a really high score. So that being said, it's like, it wasn't my weakest subject. It's just, it wasn't my focus, like my sister was the artist and I was like the kid who was supposed to be a doctor.
Right.
And now we both are fucked. No, she's a visual artist. She's a painter, and like, so. But yeah, poetry was like, and then when I was a teenager, that's when I wrote poetry like nonstop. And I joined this, I did this arts program my sisters did called California State Summer School for the Arts. She did it for visual arts. I did it for creative writing. And that's when I like really started exploring, because I was writing jokes and poetry, but that's when I really started exploring like narrative. And I took this memoir class, and because I was like, do I want to write about myself? Do I want to like do these one-liners that I've been doing? And I was like, so I wrote this, I learned about narrative writing and all that stuff. But these kids were like insane, like, oh, I wrote 3 books already, or
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, I mean, it was a really, really good program. And then I was friends with the music kids and the theater kids. And I even did 2 stand-up performances during the camp. It was like a month-long summer camp. So yeah, but I was still bioengineering major, like going into UCLA. So it was a long time to figure out that. And then stand-up became like an obsession. And then I was like, I'm just going to do stand-up because I have to be the best at this, you know? I was obsessed with, like, I still am. I mean, it puts so much pressure, but like this idea of being a prodigy, I think, because I started so young. I started at 17 and I was like, oh, I have a chance. But like one time, I remember I went back from a open mic when I was like 18 or like barely starting. My dad's like, so where do you rank in like LA among comedians? I was like, what? There's like 2 million. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So I was constantly like comparing myself to other people, like, you know, people who started at the same time, or like you know, they dropped out of school, but I was in school, not doing it as much, or this, or, you know. But now I was like, if I let myself just be a writer, I realized like what makes me happy. And I was like, oh, I don't need stand up. Like, I do like doing it, but I don't need it. I was like, if you took everything away from me, you know, I could survive if I had a pen and a piece of paper, you know,
Right.
like I could survive with just that. Everything else is like fun too, but writers, like, I need that, you know?
Yeah.
But I love everything. Like, I love doing stand up. I love doing music. But like writing is the thing that I'm obsessed with. Like, I'm obsessed with words.
Yeah. Well, and I think it shows. I mean, I think that some people, they're funny because they're funny at performing and whatever. And then some people, they don't write. You can tell they're not writers. You know, you can tell that they're not
performers.
Yeah. That's it. And it's fine. I mean, there's a place for that. But I think when you're truly writing and you're choosing words carefully, it changes things quite a lot. And I think you can expand. And I mean, you do touch on different subjects. And I saw your one man show.
Yeah.
And it gets into all different things. So it's not just strictly comedy.
Yeah.
Which is what I think even struck me about seeing your stand up the first time too, when we were in Chula Vista or something.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I talked about during that set, but
yeah, I remember that you were having a rough day. I remember that, and you like had Red Bull or something, like too much Red Bull or something.
energy.
Yeah, and so I don't know, but
I was like, Bang energy gives you so much energy, you just think that you can freestyle.
So you were doing stand up, and then while you were in school, which had to be pretty hard, and then at some point you stopped.
Well, yeah, I just I didn't do it for like, I did it like 2 or 3 times in 6 months maybe. And then for 6 months before that, I was like, I mean, it was like half the week I was sleeping all day. Half the week, 3 or 4 days I was not leaving the bed, and then the other 3 days was me doing stand up. But I went through a breakup. I moved cities and moved back home. 3-month relationship, went to San Francisco, 3 months, broke up, went back home, got depressed, and then just kept getting worse to the point where I got suicidal. And then went to the hospital, and then went to this outpatient treatment program called Clearview. And it was in Westwood, and it was like every day for 3 hours. You had to do group therapy stuff, and it specializes in dialectical behavioral treatment therapy, just for borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
Because a psychiatrist labeled me that way, which was a misdiagnosis, because I took like an actual test, and they were like, yeah, you don't have this. Maybe you might be bipolar, but like, I'm not sure. Or at least not right now. Like, you definitely don't have symptoms of mania. But I kept going to that, and shit just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And eventually, like, at one point I had to go like all day, 9 to 5. this is all in the one man show, just jokes about this stuff, and
Yeah.
got really bad to the point where I had like a meltdown during session where I like thought I was dying, and I was like interrupting everybody's session, and someone like skipped therapy because of me, and I was going crazy and like just interrupting the session. And then to that point they were like, you can't even, like, they made me go by myself like to do these you have to do these cards like where you're supposed to list all the skills that you're going to use to cope.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was fucking, I could not handle that. Like,
yeah.
You want me to like do math? It felt like math. Like I had these index cards and I had to like list out, but my brain was just not functioning. So it was just too many decisions, like,
mm-hmm.
okay, if I do this thing and then that doesn't work, then I got to do this thing and this and this and this and that. And I needed to be on medication. Like I had, I'm on Depakote now, the mood stabilizer. Like Murray Bamford's on that, Chris Gethard's on that. Like Kanye took that at one point. Like it's for bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, none of that was working. Psychiatrist wasn't giving me any medication for it. Thought I was borderline, and then she was like, "You're displaying symptoms of dependent personality disorder." Just codependency. I was just insane at the time. So then I got sent to a 21-day rehab thing, and that was covered by insurance. And they have like a rehab for addiction, and then they had one for mental health. My roommate was schizophrenic. Other guy was schizophrenic. Another guy, I don't know what he had, but and then I got out of there, and then I went to a sober living just because insurance covered it. I have no alcoholism addiction or anything. And then 10 days later, I'm in the hospital for the third time, trying to kill myself. Or I mean, I don't. It's weird to say that because I'm like, the way I was doing it, clearly I didn't want it. Like I tied a phone charger around my neck and put it on the doorknob, like it on the door. It's like nothing's gonna happen. But it's like if I really wanted to do it, this is a better way.
Right. But, yeah, it was more of a communication thing. Like,
yeah, I think it was more just like a lot of it was like when my thoughts would get so unmanageable, it was like I want to just be in a coma for like 10 days. Like I just want to get knocked out and then you wake up and I wake up and I'm in the hospital, or like something
just escape
like
that.
Escape whatever I'm in.
Right.
So yeah. And then I went for the third and final time, which was in December of 2018. Yeah. And oh man, it was a while ago, 2018.
18, yeah.
And I got put on Depakote, and I got out, and like a lot of the symptoms went away. Like the panic attack, I was having like full blown, like 3-hour episodes where I was like, I'm dying. And those went away, and I was still severely depressed, but I had a job that I got hired for, didn't start yet. So when that started, I started working with kids at after school care. And that week, like I had training, plus I had to do volunteer service because of like a red light ticket. And that whole week was like, I had to be occupied from 10 to 5 every day. So I couldn't sleep all day, and I'll just make sure not to go home. And that week I started to like not sleep the day away. And over the course of a month, things started to get better. And then a month later, I was like, it was like a week later, I was like writing jokes again. And a month after that, I did my first set, and then just kind of eased back into it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for going through all that. And I'll admit, about 11 years ago was an outpatient thing myself.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it needed to happen.
Oh yeah.
But it was also very hard. Like people listening who know me will be like, what? Right now? Yeah. Because it was hard, but it was like it needed to happen. But I think the misdiagnosis you got, that it's hard because you're just you're being treated for the wrong thing. So did you or your family, like, how did you address that? Because I think that's interesting. And
there's like no real addressing of it. It was just like, we don't know what's happening. So it wasn't until I got on Depakote, it's like, it just started working. But I even still don't have a diagnosis. Like,
right.
It's just been working. And then we went to another psychiatrist and was like, what do you think I am? She's like, I'm leaning towards bipolar. And then, but yeah, I still just don't, I just take it and it works. It's like, I think it's like, yeah, if it works, then it's probably that. And also if I get off of it, I display all the symptoms of like hypomania. Like
right.
I sleep half as much and I speak twice as fast and I'm hyper creative and I make amazing music. Like, every time I get off my medication for like 2 days by accident or run out, I just stay up till like 4 a.m. making beats on my phone. And then I listen the next day. I'm like, these are amazing. And I do it like every night. And then I write a whole song in my, like, just on the spot. But yeah, that's just like how it goes. And but it doesn't make, like, I can make great songs without that too, like, right. Because that lasts for 2 days, but then after the third day I'm incredibly sleep deprived, but I can't sleep, so it is painful. Like, physically exhausting and painful, and it's just not great. And so yeah, it's not entirely clear like if I had a sort of hypomanic thing going, but like I remember the first time I got off my meds and my sister's like, you're talking fast and this, and I was like, wait, this is just how I was in San Francisco, like all the time.
Yeah.
I was like hyper creative, super happy, and just like excited all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And then once I got off I was on Lexapro and I got off Lexapro, and then it just like, bam, went bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing with those medications. It's kind of, they're tricky because they deceive you into thinking you're fine. Or whatever, and then, oh, I'm fine, I don't need it, and then you find out, well, you did need it, and that's why you were fine for
so
that time.
But that's something I try to like make clear, is that like medication did not get rid of my depression. It just made the symptoms of life and trauma more manageable, because I have a hypersensitivity to life. To trauma and shit that's happened because of, I don't know, genetics, but also like I've had stuff happen, and I was still severely depressed. Like the worst depression was the 3 months that I was on Depakote and medication before I got my life together and got a job and had things, a structure. But like I could not have done the job without the medication because I would have freaked out and had to leave. So it's there's so many components, and medication can't give you purpose. That's what I always say.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so when you started working with the kids, and had a job, was that like the first time you really had a job that was normal in a very long time, because you were in school and you were doing comedy and stuff like that?
Yeah, because then I got out of school and I worked at Islands, like, because I got out of school and I told my mom, I was like, let me not get a real job, because like I've been doing full-time school and full-time stand-up. I'm exhausted, like let me just do stand-up for once, and so I had a part-time job, and I was gonna do like 6 months of that or something, 6 months of like easy stuff, DoorDash, Postmates, whatever, not worry about rent. And then my thing was like, then I'll figure out, do I want to move to New York? Do I want to stay in LA? Do I want to get a real job? Do I want to get an office job? I have an English degree. I could work at an office, whatever, figure out something. And then the relationship happened. It kind of threw a wrench in that. But yeah, and then when I was up in the Bay, I was working with preschool kids part-time. That's where I found out I like working with kids. This comedian, Andrew Rolfo from the Bay, I just hit up all the comedians I knew and people I knew. I was like, hey, jobs. And so I got to teach preschool kids sports, super fun. And it was part-time. And then I would sometimes do DoorDash. And then, but the after-school care was 25 hours a week. So it wasn't full time. But the thing that made that different was it was every day, same time, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And so it was very helpful. And the schools I would work at, every day I'd wake up, I don't know, like 8, somewhere around 9 to 10, or try to be earlier. I would go straight to a coffee shop. I would work on my stuff. And then by 1 p.m., I would go over to the school, or 1 or 2, go over to the school, do my thing, get out at 6, maybe go to another coffee shop for a little time, and then I would do stand-up. Mm-hmm. So it was like very, very structured, you know?
Yeah.
And my life's very structured now, even in the pandemic, but I had to figure out that structure for myself. But even now, I'm very much lacking structure because I don't have a job, which is something I'm looking for right now. But and the reason why I got this free WeWork thing, because it's like, oh, it's an office, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes things a lot simpler. But yeah, structure is like key.
Yeah, for sure. So now that's pretty much your management now, is just have structure, go to therapy, and do your writing. And
yeah, I mean, it's the pandemic kind of threw a wrench in things, and
mm-hmm.
a lot of things fell away. Like my church community, like that was gone, and now I'm reestablishing that. Like I was at an in-person outdoor Bible study yesterday, and Sundays I'm volunteering, and I might join the worship team. So like that's helpful. Or like, but my mental health support group on Wednesdays, like that's on Zoom, and I don't really go very much because like Zoom is really hard to. There's so many people on it. It's so easy for me to just like tune out and just like play a game on my phone. It's really hard to feel like I'm there, you know? And there's a lot of people. Whereas like 20 people in a room, it's great because we all get to talk and we feel there and like we can talk after. But 20 people on Zoom is really hard to like stay focused. If it was like a smaller group on Zoom, I think I would have a better chance of. So it's been hard to go to that. And then, and then just like certain communities that like performing communities that I became like another thing when I went back to stand up is the first thing I was like, I'm only going to perform at my friends' shows or shows that feel incredibly supportive, you know, because I'm fragile. And I'm also going to talk about suicide. So let's not go to like, you know, the Comedy Store or something. So then like there was this one place, Al Lac, and it was like super awesome, mixed mic. I started going to the Poetry Lounge because I'd heard about it and I was like, well, I like poetry. I started performing spoken word in the Bay, so I was like, maybe I'll try it there. And I would do stand up there. It'd be amazing, you know, and I'd wait in line for 3 hours, but I'd still meet people. And then my friend Christian, who's a poet, he gave me all the poetry mics. So I started performing stand-up at like music and poetry mics, and there was no stand-ups there. And I could talk about going to therapy, and I could talk about this, and like it would be awesome. So then, you know, and so eventually I was like, this is weird. Like, I don't think I like doing comedy in front of comedians. I think this is like my people. And then I started doing music and poetry, so it's like occasionally I might not even do stand-up. So it gave me that opportunity to be like, do I feel like doing stand-up, or do I feel like it was just like I do whatever I want at these places. And also they would be packed, you know, like they weren't just comedians. Like there was a once a month one, and it's a coffee shop, and it's like 80 to 100 people, you know. Or the Poetry Lounge is 200 to 300 people, you know, on a Tuesday night, and you get to do, it's just 3 minutes, but like still I take that, you know, over doing 3 5-minute sets or 6 5-minute sets in front of like 4 people. And also my mental health was so fragile that like I would step into these places that I used to be able to go and I would feel bad afterwards, but I'd just do it again. But like this time I go and it's like the next day I miss work. So I was like, nope, can't do this anymore. So yeah, that it's like, and then this pandemic was the first time I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do like just comedy anymore. I did 3 shows. I did one in San Diego, it was fun. I did 2 shows, they're both fun. And I did one show that was like really bad. And the amount of just the fact that I spent that much time to do something that, and the people there were terrible. Like the comedians, some of the comedians I met, I was like, man, you guys are garbage people. Like you are not great people. You know what I mean? Like
I do.
You know, and that's just the fact of it. So and there's bad people everywhere, but at least if I go to I don't know, a poetry or music thing, like I get to hear some cool
Yeah.
stuff that I wouldn't normally hear, but also just realizing, okay, I developed a one-man show. I have like an hour of music too, and an hour of spoken word. Like I'm like, it's kind of arrogant, or not. It's not arrogant. I kept thinking I was arrogant, but I was like, no, I'm a headliner now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that I sell tickets, but like I just can't do 7 minutes anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can get through 2 bits, and then I have a bunch of music I don't get to do, and I have a bunch of and I was like, I feel restricted, and I was like, you know what, it's fine. I'd rather do less sets, but get the ones I want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been like a tough thing to kind of like accept, because it's like, I don't know, the whole MO with stand up before was just like as much as possible all the time.
It was, yeah, it's always, and for people who don't know, I mean, I've had a couple of comedians on, but we've talked about different aspects of comedy, but this is one that when you're doing comedy, and I've only been doing it 2 years, so you've been doing it a lot longer, but I think it's the same. Like, you try to get as much stage time as possible, and that means you start to not value yourself, because you're gonna spend 3 hours somewhere to do a 3-minute set to a bunch of comics who not only won't laugh at you, they will actively not laugh at you. Like they try not to.
You know, I used to be at mics, like and I'd laugh at a joke, like actively laugh at it, and I'd get angry at the people who weren't laughing.
Right.
But I'd fucking call them out. Like, I'd literally be like, what the fuck is your guys' problem? Like, that's fucking funny. Like, even if you didn't perform well, that's a good joke. And I would just, I don't know, it'd make me angry. Like, I would be like, stop this. Leave.
Yeah.
Just walk outside. Like, go talk to your friend on the phone. Do something else. Like, why are you in the room if you don't want to be here? Because in my thing, I was like, you know, someone would be like, oh, why don't you go watch the comedians? Like, go. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to watch, because I don't want to. And it's worse for me to be in there and not be supportive than me to be there and actually laugh, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would never do that. I was like, if I'm in there, I'm trying to laugh. Like, I'm going to actually, and if I don't like you, then I'm just going to leave. Like, and people would be, and now these mics, like, they make you stay, you know? And I don't like that, because I'm like,
well, they make you stay. But then some people can leave, because there'll always be like the people who the host likes, who goes, oh yeah, you can go. Oh yeah, you come in.
Yeah.
I'll put you up in 10 minutes, and then you can leave. And then everyone else has been sitting there for 3 hours, and you're just like, what?
There's this one mic that I refuse to go to. It's like, and everyone has to do it now, fourth wall. Like, it's like 6, 7 people. It's 1 hour slots, and you sign up on beforehand, and you have to stay for the full hour. And you pay $5 to go up. So you pay $5 to go up. You have to stay for the whole hour. So I was like, what is the difference between this and a bringer show? I'm like, you're paying money to do it, and you have to stay. So it's like everyone there is like forced to be your audience. I'm like, that's literally what you do at a bringer show. You invite friends, and they have to watch shitty comedy and pay way overpriced for it. I'm like, dude, like, I'd rather perform to... I've performed to, you know, I did my one-man show in my living room to 5 of my friends. This is an hour I did to 5 people, but they were paying attention. I got way more out of that. I honestly learned more from that performance than doing it in front of 35 of my family and friends and doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw my friends who, like, love me tune out. Like, I saw when they were disinterested, and I'm like, dang, I'm your friend, and like, you're not even paying attention. So that means that this is boring and I need to fix it. Whereas the other ones, like, I could ride off of it, you know, like, because certain pockets of the crowd are still laughing, so I could just keep performing to them. But it's like, if 5 people aren't all together watching you, then you better change something. Yeah,
that's true.
So yeah, I'm all for like performing in front of, you know, less people than I told him I'd rather perform in front of 2 real people than 300 comedians. You could name an infinite amount of number of comedians. I don't care. I want, you know, 2 real people.
Mm-hmm.
That's, maybe the comedians are real people, like, in terms of the way they act, but yeah, I'm not trying to do that.
No, it's really hard, and it is a hard thing. So when you made this shift now, I mean, I think what's important is like you've found these different things. You really like spent time deciding what was satisfying to you, because I mean, comedy, there is an allure about it, right? I keep
Yeah.
doing it. But yeah, with the whole thing of just like being a writer and writing and then having different aspects, do you spend a certain amount of time on certain days working on like a certain style writing, or is it just whatever happens?
Yeah, I'm really, really, really just trying to figure that out, you know. The one thing that has unified everything was when Kobe died.
Mm-hmm.
I had this kind of existential mortality conversation, and you know, am I really turning over every stone? Am I really working as hard as I can? That song that got stuck in your head, I wrote that
Yes.
because of that, you know. And I just thought, so something bad happened, which was I got banned from like one of my favorite venues in San Francisco because I did a show there. I headlined with my friend, and we were just like counting up ticket sales, and they said, "Oh, you sold 22 tickets," and I was like, "I counted 40 people in there." You know, I remember I took a photo of the
Mm-hmm.
crowd. I was like, 40 people. I saw, because I thought I was like, and I told I was gonna tell a friend or something. Anyways, I don't know, for whatever reason, that's how many tickets they had, and I got mad because I was like, you guys hounded me about promotion, and I was really stressed because I thought the show was going to get canceled, even though my friends were coming, and then it ended up being a good show, you know, and we had a good time, and now we're not getting our money's worth, you know, and on top of that, so anyways, and I said something kind of out of pocket, which was just like, if you didn't count the tickets, that's terrible business practice. And then the other person said, "Fuck you, you're terrible at promo." Or shut the fuck up, you're terrible at promo. You know, we did you a favor. You were on an off night. We usually reserve that for people that can pack the house, and you can't pack the house. And yeah, and I was like, dude, what are you talking about? You didn't do me a favor. Like, I saw another venue that was $30 an hour, and you guys did a 70-30 box office split or something. And also, you said that the bar manager is the one who's stingy about ticket sales, and the bar manager was like, "Man, I wish they would tell me when these things happen." He's like, "You guys should have cut a deal with me." So it was, I don't know what it was. It just felt shady, but misunderstanding. And I got banned from the venue for a year or something. But and then the pandemic happened. It was like everybody got banned. My friends said. I like how it's like banned for a year. I'm like, I'm never doing your venue like ever
Yeah,
again.
don't worry.
Yeah, and then I banned him from 3 Arts, which reps Kevin Hart and all these other people. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he probably doesn't need it. He's doing well, but well, I was like, just so you know, you're blacklisted from this management company. That got me really angry, you know. And I was playing basketball, and I was just like super frustrated. And one thing I learned in therapy is like anger is when an obstacle's in your way of a goal and you want to reach it. So I was like, okay, what am I angry about? And I was like, oh, I want to sell tickets and I don't. And this guy said I'm terrible at promo. I'm so angry. And then Edinburgh was happening and I had to find a venue and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? Put my money where my mouth is. Like, take this seriously. And when Kobe died, I was like, you know what? Let me like figure out how to work as hard as Kobe did. Like, actually. And I also like this guy Nathaniel Drew on YouTube, and he was talking about Benjamin Franklin's schedule, and he tried that. So like, I just like kind of fashioned this schedule based on Kobe working. He would do this famous on the off season. He would do 2 hours on, 3 hours off, or 2 hours on, then rest, 2 hours on, rest. He would do 3 workouts a day, and it was like 2 hours of 2 hours of cardio, then 2 hours of weightlifting, and then 2 hours of basketball skills training. Okay. So that just became, I was like, okay, that's my thing. 6 hours a day. I just got to do that 6 days a week. 5 or 6, whatever I can handle. And so that became like the unifying thing. And so I started trying to like chop up the work blocks based on what I was doing. So like when I was doing the EP, it was like 2 hours in the morning to do some stuff, and then 4 hours on the EP, or administrative, or whatever it may be, or it's like then the EP was, I'm not working on the EP, so it's 2 hours where I'm practicing music, like I'm doing vocal lessons and piano stuff, 2 hours where I'm doing one-man show stuff, and then 2 hours where I'm writing new music, or, like,
Yeah.
and so now it's like I have that and I keep doing that, and that's how I operate with the 6 hours. But it's kind of just a smorgasbord of like whatever I need to accomplish. And if I don't have any like projects that are impending, then it kind of is whatever it is. But like when the EP happened, I realized like I need to devote 4 hours a day to this thing at least, because like I had to constantly go back and forth with my uncle, who was the sound engineer, and he had to send me a mix, and I had to be like, change the reverb on this. And it was just like constant. And all night I had to be listening to it, or this, or this, or this. And then I also wanted time to like, I can't function if I'm not creating new stuff. Like I just can't. Maybe that's the writer part of me, but like I literally, if I am just working on something and polishing it and not simultaneously like working on the next thing, I go insane. And maybe that's a good quality, but also sometimes I'm like, why can't I just like just focus on this thing to make it like really fucking good? But I think that's just how I am. And also like collaboration. I realize like I can't live without collaboration. Like I need to make room for it, even if it ruins my own career. Even if it's like I don't have time to like help other people, I'm like I just need this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still figuring it out. Like I'm constantly figuring it out, and then trying to work out on top of that and lose weight, and like it's just such a I'm always figuring it out. But at least I know like the process. I mean, at least I know. Kobe says like the approach never changed, but the process did. So like at least I know, I'm not going to be perfect, but like as long as I just strive to keep some sort of consistency. But yeah, that I've had so many systems, like work systems. This is the first one that like stuck, because I saw Kobe and I was like, wait, he's been doing this since like high school. Like he was doing this workout since like high school all the way to when he retired, or this way of being, and then I thought of my mom, who went to the same job 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, or not even 9 to 5, but sometimes more, for 20 years, and I was just like, wait, isn't my goal to like have some sort of longevity in this career? Whereas before my goal was like to get famous as fast as possible, even though I didn't realize that was my goal. It was this obsession with like being a prodigy. And I'm like, let's shift the focus. What can I do that is sustainable? You know what I mean? Because I've burned out. I constantly am burning out.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't want to burn out anymore. I just want to like keep going. And so it's been working. And it gives me a lot of peace of mind knowing that it's like, this is my limit, and I'm just going to my limit every day. And I know that if I go further, I usually burn out. If I go under, I feel dissatisfied. So it's like, I just do it, and then I'm that's it. Then I know I'm done for the day. So it feels more like clocking into a real job.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's just adding the structure too that you need, right?
Yeah.
So with the song, and yes, your song that's out on Spotify now did get stuck in my head. So can you talk a little bit about Don't Want to Die Young?
Yeah. So like, I think I wrote that a week or a few days after Kobe died. And I've just been working on like, I produced the whole EP, like not on GarageBand, like the beats I made were all on GarageBand on my phone. And then my uncle has Pro Tools, so he was able to make it fancy, professional. But so it was a loop that I found on GarageBand, and I had been making a beat to it. And I just like working on it. And then I guess I got home from something, and then I just kind of broke down like about everything. And that's when I started singing, I guess. I don't know, some melody, the hook came to me, and then I don't want to die young, and then I just put that beat on and started singing over it, and then I wrote a verse, and it happened very fast, and I wrote the whole thing, and then I kept working on the beat, and then I made this like the beat switches that was influenced by Drake, which everyone hears that beat, they're like, oh, it sounds like Kanye. Well, it does, but the reason I put the beat switch is because Drake has 0 to 100 / the catch up, and 0 to 100's braggadocious. I go to 0 to 100 real quick, and then the catch up, which didn't make the radio cut, it's on his album, is him. It's very introspective and him doubting himself. So then I was like, the first part is me doubting myself. Let me flip it. you know, then the second part is braggadocious. So then I write the little outro thing, and I also perceived it as like, this is going to end the whole EP. And I wrote it and I was like, yeah, this is a good song. Like, I was like, whoa, this is catchy. Cause I could not stop singing it. And then that night I went to an open mic and I performed it. Like, I was like, I can't stop thinking about this song.
Yeah. I mean, it is catchy. I won't sing it now because I have to sing it here.
Nice.
So it doesn't sound as good as you. When you went to make the EP, did you take any of your poetry and turn it into songs, or are those two separate things for you?
Yeah, so you'll hear it when it fully comes out. I have 2 poems, both of them spoken word poems. One of them is one of the first poems I ever performed at a spoken word mic, and it's about suicide. It's called Love. What I Gotta Love Myself, and it's this like kind of dialogue between me and kind of God, or me, God, and myself. Because it's like, I was just thinking about this idea, is like, me loving myself is like, why am I 2 different people? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What self am I loving? You know?
Yeah.
Is it the past me? Is it the present me? Is it the future me? Who am I honoring? And so it's that question of like, and it's this dialogue of like, why do I gotta love myself? You know, when it's so much easier to love somebody else. They say it's for your health. You know, you can't. It all rhymes too. But I take that and I put it over the loop of I Don't Want to Die Young. So on the album, it's almost like these 3 tracks are one track. So it's the poem over the loop, and then it goes into I Don't Want to Die Young, and the loop is a full beat, and then the beat switches to the beat of the outro, and then the beat of the outro comes back, and it's a poem called Dear Notebook. And I wanted to do something about Kobe. And he has a poem called Dear Basketball. So mine is Dear Notebook. And it's like me saying goodbye to my notebook, as if I'm saying I'm finally like releasing my poetry to the world that I've been hiding. And his is Dear Basketball, like I'm leaving basketball. So, and that's set over the same beat. So you have 2 beats that flow into each other, and then 2 poems that bridge the 2. So yeah, because the whole EP is meant to be a narrative piece. Like, because all the songs were songs that were supposed to be kind of like related to the one-man show thematically. Mm-hmm. So it's meant to tell a story the same way the one-man show does. Like, it's almost like the soundtrack to the one-man show.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. And then you also were very generous in your donating proceeds from Don't Want to Die Young, right, to the Rainbow Foundation.
Still trying to figure out how to like actually make proceeds happen, though.
yeah. Well, it's very generous so far, but no.
It will pan out, I think, because I tried to do this TikTok thing, and it didn't go well, and then I was like, I think I got to leave social media for my mental health, and then it's just like, and then family stuff happened, and I got bogged down. So it's like, I'm still trying to figure out, because my goal is to like have each song be associated with a charity, you know?
Oh, that's great.
Like mental health. NAMI and Mental Health LA and suicide prevention is like one charity. The other is education. Ellie's Best education. Find a way to give back to like LUSD or whatever. And then you have Mamba Foundation. And then those are the 3 kind of. And then I'll probably figure out another foundation. But I want like each song to be associated with a cause, and then the whole album as a whole to be associated with mental health.
Yeah.
Which is like more of a career goal I have, because I that's like my end goal is to have enough money to like, I mean, I guess you don't need a lot of money to start a nonprofit, but I want to flip everything I do into nonprofit development later. Mm-hmm. Like everything I do, I want to flip towards the causes I believe in later on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think being service minded and helping others is important. And I mean, even you're generous with sharing about your mental health, but I think that's very important. I don't think that people being silent about it helps anyone else, because it just lends to the stigma of all of it, right?
I don't know if maybe my lack of boundaries has become useful in that way, which is just like, I've told these stories to like my own stories to friends. For like, I have a friend who's an amazing photographer. She takes my headshots. She films videos for me, and she was going to pre-med, and like told her the story of how I got inspired to do stand-up and like how I left pre-med and stuff. And she came back from school one time. She was like, yeah, I'm a film major now. And she was like, you actually were the first person to implant that idea in my head. And I was like, wow, that's powerful, you know? So I wrote a super long 5-year reflection about being in stand-up. And it was this, you know, super long memoir style. It was like a 10-page Google Docs. I wrote at 1 a.m. in the morning and I just posted on Facebook. And people actually read it. And one of those people was the girl I ended up dating in San Francisco. And he was like, holy shit, this is like everything I've been feeling, everything I'm resonating with. You're answering all my questions, all my doubts, like you're encouraging me. And, you know, someone was like, you should start a blog. And so I kind of just kept doing that on Facebook and on stage and all these things. And like the responses I would get were just like, hey, thank you for doing that. And to see like how much it impacted people in ways I didn't know how. I started to, every time I was hesitant to share, I thought, hey, but like someone might need this. Even if it's just like one person, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of like what motivated it. I have a very strained relationship with social media, however, though, because it's like, you know, it gets tough on me to like, it warps my view of like how many people care or who cares, or, you know, it's like, I think about it's like, if 80, I read something around like Instagram, it shows it to 10% of your audience. And then if it organically, like they engage with a lot, it show to more, right? So if I have 800 followers, it's going to show it to 80 people. And then say 34 people like it. And I thought about that in terms of live performance. If I performed in a room of 80 people and 30 people came up to me afterwards and told me good job, and then 5 people commented, which is like 5 people actually had a conversation with me afterwards, I'd be like, that's an amazing show, right? But if I'm on Instagram and I get 34 likes, I'm like, I'm dog shit, because I'm seeing someone else get 200,000, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I realized that that's not what I want anymore. Like, so I was like, I gotta leave this for now. Or, I mean, I say for now, but I don't know if I'll ever go back. But I was just like, I don't like this relationship.
Well, it's hard with the social media because it's like we need it for certain things because to promote ourselves or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I totally understand, because even like I'll post something that I think is cool and no one will react, and then I post some like shitty post that's me being not the best person sometimes, and then I'll get so many reactions, and I'm like, okay, I don't want that to be me though. I'd rather you guys like this cool other thing. But you can't control that. And then I didn't know that about the 10% of your audience, because I mean, to me, it's like I follow my friends because I want to see what's up. And so sometimes I won't see someone forever, and I'll look, and then they've posted like 3 things, and I'm like, I didn't like any of them because I didn't know they posted them. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. So like, it's confusing, and then you have to like, so then you just gotta post consistently to manipulate the algorithm. All these things, and what I realized was like, oh, it's like anything else. If I want to like get good at this thing, I gotta do it consistently, and I gotta put work into it. But not only that, I thought it's just like, oh, put work into it, but it's like, you actually have to learn the format. Like, you have to learn what works for that specific format, the same way you have to learn you can't just say anything on a comedy stage. It has to be funny. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But there's a specific genre to social media content, which is what my friend he was like, you gotta like, and I was like, this is not a genre I want to learn, because I'm also trying to learn jazz. I'm also trying to learn guitar. I'm also trying to get better at music. I'm also trying to learn mixing, mastering, getting better at basketball. None of these things will help me with social media. And I just do not have the time. And it's like, it seems easy. It's like, oh, caption the video. It takes 30 minutes to an hour. And I'm like, 30 minutes to an hour is a long time for me, because I also had to do an hour of vocal lessons every day to get a good voice. Where am I going to fit in that hour elsewhere? And so that's kind of was just like, and it was hard. It was really hard. This is just very recently, but I'm like, man. So I'm scared. I'm like, dang, I don't know how to do it. Like, but I mean, people do it. I mean, I saw Daniel Kitson in London sell 2,100 tickets for 21 days straight with no social media and just a mailing list. I'm like, people do it. You know, it works. Like, he did live performance and he built it up over years. It's just like, it's just a different process, and it'll work. Also, I realized my only metric for success was how many followers people had. So I'd be like, oh, they're successful because they have followers, and it's like I don't know how much money they're making.
No.
Yeah,
Well, there's a lot of groups on Facebook now, and everyone goes, "Oh, let's list all our social media, and everyone can follow each other."
yeah,
Quite honestly, I don't want to follow everybody.
yeah.
And it doesn't matter to me necessarily like that I have the most, but I know, but that is a metric we're all trying to aim for. Or like YouTube, you have to get 100 subscribers in order to make a custom link. Otherwise, you have this stupid like bunch of
Yeah.
numbers. So now it's like everybody's trying to get followers, but there's an algorithm that detects if you follow for follow. So you have to watch their
I didn't
video.
even know that.
Yeah, there is. So, and this is a hot tip for everyone. If you want someone to follow you and you're going to follow them in exchange, you better watch 5 minutes of their video or so that it looks like you're engaged with their content when you follow them. Otherwise, if they follow you the same day or whatever, Facebook or
Yeah,
YouTube will pick that up and you will lose followers. So people would get like 50 followers and then be down to 20 again. And
yeah.
yeah,
I'm
so
also
it's
just
just a
like,
game.
you know, like, um, I'm a codependent person, so relationships are I can't handle too many. And social media is there's like your my friends is like you have 200,000 people in your pocket, you know. I can't handle that. It's like I need to just be with one person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like it's just it makes less thoughts go. I have too many thoughts. I can't hear other people's thoughts. Then I'm fucking going crazy, you know, because like I already don't like my own a lot of the time. So I can't hear what you're saying too. And then I'm like, it's chaos, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just trying to make like there's a 12-step saying like your world has to become smaller before it becomes big again.
Mm.
And like one thing about going through depression is like you cut out so many people in your life because like the people that don't try to reach out to you, then they're just gone. And you think that you'll miss those people, and then you're like, no, I don't miss them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just like keeping a tight, you know, the tight circle and figuring that out, and really like making sure that I'm very deliberate about who I keep in my life. Is a new thing that I'm trying to figure out, you know. But I'm only 25, so like it's it makes sense. Yeah,
it does. I mean, there's a lot of change to come for sure. I mean,
yeah. So like, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I'm still figuring it out. You know, it's always changing.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but it's good that you've kind of at least honed in on what you want to do more and sorted that out. So as far as your one-man show, can you just talk a little bit about what it's about?
Yeah. So I describe it as a compilation of jokes, songs, stories, and poems about a breakup, a breakdown, a breakthrough, and everything in between. I might change that tagline because I think the breakup, breakdown, breakthrough, I thought of it and I was like, that sounds cool. And then I was like, I think it's been done. But yeah, so it describes the story of me. It starts with me, you know, explaining what happened and what I had to go through. And then it describes the story of me falling in love and going to San Francisco and the turmoil that happened preceding the breakup, and how what was unique about this breakup was it was called a break. You know, let's take a 6-month break, but that added to my obsessiveness because I was counting down the days that we would see again, no contact. Yep, and then it talks about my what happened, and I descend into depression, and it culminates in the story of me going to my third and final psych ward visit and performing stand-up in front of psych ward patients, which did happen twice. The first night I did 7 minutes, and the next night I did 20 minutes. Nice. You know, the joke is like I headlined a psych ward. I killed. That's insensitive. But I suicided. No, that's worse. You know, but it was a beautiful moment because I had not written jokes. I had not done stand up. the depression started about the relationship and it became about so much more, it became about everything, which depression often does. Cause it's like, you think it's about one thing and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And you're like, there's so much deeper stuff. It goes through me getting bullied in high school and this experience I had on Kill Tony where I was roasted, but then the next day basically had a flashback of a thing that happened to me in high school. So anyways, it goes all through that and it culminates with the psych ward experience and ends with me working with kids and working my way out of the depression and all the lessons I've learned. It's still a work in progress. The plan was to get at least 60 reps in by the end of Edinburgh and then keep touring it and figure out a way to like record this thing, as an album or something. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to take it to Orlando, do 7 shows. I'm looking into trying workshopping it again through like Airbnb experiences or something. I don't know. But yeah, I've done it like 10 or 11 times. So that's many drafts I have of it. But yeah, I got it down to 55 minutes by Orlando. Cool. So that was cool. So it is like 1 hour chunk, but it's going to change so much because there's more music I'm writing, poetry, etc. But that's the story, and it's not the first of its kind, but I mean, people have done, like there's a special on Amazon Prime now that's like jokes, stand up, and poetry, or you got Neil Brennan who does his thing. But I mean, one thing I will say is like they all like feed into each other, and I it's a 3-act structure, like I looked at movie form, like it builds up and climaxes and dies. And, I really tried to like make sure it felt like one fluid story because it was. And so it's something I'm still learning, so I'm really, really proud of it. And I've wanted to write a one-man show ever since I watched If I by Dimitri Martin, which won the Perrier Award. And I wanted to go to Edinburgh because he went there. So like, this has been a dream in the making for years. And everything I did in terms of like milestones with stand up was all in the process of me going to Edinburgh. Like, I did my first 30-minute set, like junior year of college, and I did an hour, senior year of college in front of friends. Like, so everything was kind of like in service of that and me trying to like hack away at certain topics. I had this one-man show idea back when I was 19, like, and it just, the title and the conception of it and the story, I didn't even have a story. It was just this idea of like, I want to trace, I watched this band called Us the Duo with my sister, and they told the story of how they met through their songs. And I was like, I want to tell the story of why I'm a comedian through my jokes.
Right.
And that was the idea I had. And that was always the idea I had. And I just, it never like panned out. And then all of a sudden, this thing happens to me and I get out of it. I'm like, oh my God, I got a show. I was like, it's the worst way to get the show, but
yeah, you have a whole story now,
I have a story. And I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, in the Edinburgh thing, I mean, man, so being over here in England, I mean, when I moved here last January, that's all everyone was talking about. Everyone was starting to preview. Everyone was starting to do whatever. And then the pandemic hit. Yeah. And it just shut everything down. And I don't know if they're going forward this year too. I know already a bunch of stuff got canceled, Glastonbury and stuff like that. So I don't really know if they're doing Edinburgh, but
like, I mean, at this point I could go to Edinburgh and do 2 shows, do my one-man show and do a full hour of just stand-up poetry and music of all new stuff. And so, I mean, it is like the longer I wait to put stuff into the world, the more stuff I have, and I'm just so much more ready for when I do pop, or when the right opportunity does come. But obviously I'm so freaking impatient.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. Well, it's been hard. So,
there's this Bible verse, or not Bible verse, like our pastor, he is talking about like how the early church, there's like rich people in the church, and then there's like the slaves, the servants, and they'd come later. And so that they would have communion and they would just feast on all this amazing food, and then they'd give the leftovers to the servants who came later, even though they're all part of the same church. And he's like, wait for your gifts to be experienced until those people without can, like, stop, don't eat until everyone's here, And I just think about that. I'm like, I have a lot of things I want to share, but it's like, until I can share it with the people that need it, it's like, I gotta wait, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, if I don't have the resources to like use this to help people, because that's what this stuff is meant for, mental health, etc. It's like, then it doesn't need to be out there, because it's just gonna like make me more glorified, but like, it's not gonna help anyone.
Yeah.
So the pandemic is like, what, you know, people have bigger things to worry about right now. And this podcast, it helps people. You know what I mean?
Hope so. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I listened, you know, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. You know, it's a concept that, you know, I didn't know about you, certain things about you, and I'm like, well, cool.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's the purpose.
It's really important, like stuff like this, and so it's like, you know, whatever way that, just the best way to be of service.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So is there any like advice or mantra that you like to share with people? I mean, you just talked about what you follow right now as far as just kind of waiting your turn in a way, but is there any kind of advice or mantra you like to just share with people?
About specifically like more than
anything
work, or
yeah, or whatever. I mean, whatever just has kind of touched you as like something that...
There's so many things that have touched me, but I guess if we're specifically talking about this idea that or this podcast represents, for me personally, I mean, you know, they say, like, there's this quote by Stephen King, art should serve life, not the other way around. And other people have said, you know, build your career around your life, not, you know, but that's what I'm really just trying to figure out, is like, what is the bare essentials of what I need to be happy and a human being? And if the career fits into that and there's money to be involved, it's fine. But like, I'm actually coming to, and I mean, maybe it's an early time, I'm only 25, but like, I'm trying to get to a point where it's like, I don't even care about this ever making money. Like, right. And there was a moment when I was working with the kids and I went home and I was like, man, if this is all there is, like, I'm good. Like, I just worked with kids. I played sport. Like, if I just get to do this on the, like, I honestly want to just be able to be comfortable just doing this on the side. You know what I mean? And that's like a weird thing to think, because I've been achievement oriented my whole life, you know, like, but one of the core beliefs that I had to work through in therapy is like, I can't do something unless I'm the best at it. So it's like, I restricted myself from doing music or poetry or this, because it's like, stand-up is the thing I'm meant to be the best at. Stand-up is the one thing I can get to Chappelle level at or something, which is probably not even true. But this idea that's like, oh, maybe I have a chance to be the next big thing, right? Rather than being like, I don't care. Like, I like doing stand-up sometimes, and I like doing music and this. And it's like, now I'm at a place where it's like, no one can do whatever I do, because like, just no one does it. Like no one has ever done what I'm doing. And so now I'm in a league of my own, you know, so I don't have to compare myself to anyone else. Like, it's just like, I sometimes I see stand-ups like get successful in that same mindset. It's like, oh, they're young. And I'm like, what am I even thinking? Like, I'm doing music too. Or then I compare myself to musicians. I'm like, but you also do stand-up. Like, there is nothing, like, there is no way that you can ever be in their league. So, and that being said, like, I just like, I want to get, what do I need to be, like, what does my day consist of that makes me happy? And I realize, like, my friend jokes about, he's like, this unemployment money. He's like, how bad is my life that this is the most money I've ever had? My friend is in New York. But like, I remember when I would talk to him, I would be like, how are you? And he's like, you know what? I want to make movies and do stand-up, and I'm making movies and I'm doing stand-up. Like, he's doing stand-up, and he was making he makes a web series. That's amazing. He didn't say, like, I'm not making a major blockbuster movie, so I'm not happy. I'm not getting paid to do stand-up. So he's like, I'm doing the things. So I realized during this pandemic, like, what do I need? I was like, I just need 6 hours a day to do creative stuff that I like. I need to play basketball. I need to read books. I love reading. I need to have enough money to do those things and live off of it. I need church community. I need mental, like, what are the bare essentials of my life? And I realized, like, none of those things actually involve making a lot of money at my career. I didn't realize that. I was like, I thought to do these things, like, I have to make money, but that was just a lie. That you could be really poor and do these things. Like, you could be really poor and still, like, work 6 hours a day on your craft.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's probably...
didn't realize that, you know? I didn't know that that was a fact. It does cost money to do big things, though. Like, to organize Edinburgh, it costs money. If you want to make a big motion picture, it costs money, you know? But, like, people will give you the money if you just ask. You know? Like, if you really are, like... If you ask enough people, someone's going to give it to you. You know? Yeah. So, I don't know. I read that book, The Art of Asking, also. And so I'm just like, okay, what do I need? Like, what's the bare minimum that I can... And I just want that. If I get that first, then, yeah. But I don't even have that right now. You know? So I'm like, oh, how can I even worry about this other stuff, you know? Yeah. I don't have it. Like, and... it's not that I can't get it. It's just like, I don't have it. You know, I have 6 hours a day, but like, I have my own place. I can't travel. I can't, you know. Yeah. I don't have all the music equipment I want. You know what I mean? It's like access and stuff. But I think, so that's like what I would say is that like, life is not short. You think it's short, and then you're like, this keeps going. Yeah. So
it's like at different times it feels shorter than others, but it's just like you can do the things, and you can, even if you're 50 and you want to do, and I even shouldn't say 50 with that tone, because I'm like 9 years from that, but it's like if you're 70 and you want to, it doesn't matter. Like, you still can.
That's what, once I got rid of this idea of like I have to be good at something to do it, I'm like, I could just start playing the clarinet when I'm 75, you know? Right. Yeah. I'm like, now I'm down to do this. Like, and when it opened up my life, because I'm like, I'm 25, think of how many things, like, I'm really good at tech decking, like doing tricks with a finger skateboard. And that started because my dad confiscated one from a student when he was a teacher. Winter break or school ended, so he just cleaned out his desk. He forgot to give it back to the guy. He gave it to me, and it just started as a nervous thing to do while I was on the computer. And I didn't devote more than 15, 30 minutes a day for 10 years. All of a sudden, I'm watching on, like, YouTube, and I'm like, wait, I'm as good as people that are sponsored. Like, and I did not devote any conscious effort to, like, become good. If I want to be the best, then I would have to devote way more time. Right. But just to be like slightly good at something enough to like do a trick and people are like, whoa, that's cool. How'd you do that? Like, so you can be like super like proficient at a lot of things, just super okay. And I think when you're obsessed with being the best, you can be the best at like one thing. But like, honestly, it's like so much more fun to be like mediocre at a lot of things. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's just me, but like, if you get rid of the idea, it's like, why do you have to be like amazing at it? You know, for who?
Well, you stop enjoying it. That's the problem.
Yeah, as long as it's fun. And I stopped asking people like, what do I need to do to make it? I asked all my like more successful friends or people that I knew in any position. I was just like, what do I need to do to not quit? And I asked this one guy like, what do I need to do? Oh, there it is. There's my long-winded way to get to the one word of advice. This guy, he was an art teacher at the after-school program, just started. He was a touring musician with his brother, who was Prodigy, the rapper who died, and Mobb Deep. And he still, what I loved about it was he's older, but I asked him about music, and he was so excited to show me his guitars and his studios. And I was like, this guy's still like in love with this thing. And here I am like not sure if I want to do stand-up anymore. And I just was like, how do you stay in love with the thing, you know, this long? And he said, surround yourself with people that you love, that love you, and that love what you do. And that, to me, that last part is the one that I was missing. And like, because I have people that love me, I love them, but if they don't love what you do, you know, like they might love you, but they love different things. They want you to do different things. Then they're going to tell you to do different things, or they're going to tell you, this is what works for me. It's like, they got to love, you know, everything about what you're doing, and you got to love it back too. And so, that was really important to me. So the spaces I entered were purely based on those words. Like, I'm not going to go to places that don't encourage what I see. And I used to think as a stand-up, you got to go to places that are going to kick the shit out of you because it makes you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But I did all those places, and I learned the only way to like not get the shit kicked out of you is to kick the shit back out of the audience.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just a fight. That's not what I'm out here to do. I'm not out here to fight. Like, I did a show in Bakersfield where they heckled me. It's like, I got called faggot. Like, what? And I like just roasted them back. And it was like, sure, I did better than everybody else, but it was an awful time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, that's not for me.
Well, yeah, and just hearing like homophobic slurs or racial slurs or whatever people say. I mean, it's like, yeah, I know you're at a comedy club, but this is not how we're talking to each other.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some comedians like want to be dog fighters or something. I'm like,
yeah,
or like, so I don't know what the like MO for some comedians are, but like, yeah, if we're just talking about like doing this for fun, like, fuck that.
yeah, no, it's not fun.
Yeah.
All right, so I do a set of questions in every interview called the Fun Five.
Yeah.
Where I'm just gonna ask you some things that are kind of fun. I think they're fun. That's why I'm asking them.
Cool.
So what's the oldest t-shirt you have that you still wear? And you're pretty young, so it could be like not that old, but
yeah, dang. I was probably just like a Hanes Costco shirt. Like a 6-pack white t-shirts from Costco, Hanes. Like
okay.
7 years old or 6 years old.
But yeah, you wear them like it now cost a penny each time you wear it. Basically, you've worn it somewhere.
Yeah.
Cool. So one thing is a lot of people have been saying throughout the pandemic, especially that every day is like Groundhog's Day, and yours is kind of in a way because you have a routine, but and just repetitive. And so, what song would you have on your alarm clock if it really was Groundhog's Day and this was the song you hear every single morning?
Is it messed up to say it's one of my own songs? It's like a beat.
No.
Okay, it's this beat I made called it's not a song that exists yet. But wait, not Home. But anyways, it's not out yet, but I made a beat for this song called Dusty Piano. And it was a song about, I don't know, I like the beat. I made it sound like Bob O'Reilly kind of.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm happy, like it makes me feel good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and I have a playlist on Spotify, so once it's out, I'll stick it on the playlist too.
Oh, yeah, who knows when it'll be out?
Well, eventually, I'll wait. Okay, so coffee or tea or neither?
Coffee.
Yeah. How? Any coffee. Specific coffee? Like,
non-specific coffee. My favorite coffee shop is the Coffee Connection.
Okay.
On
cool.
Venice.
Where's that? All right.
It's attached to a church. It's got it's got an outdoor patio, an indoor place, and a like hybrid in a way because it's like open.
Mm-hmm.
But there's couches and desks and like, so it's got 3 environments to work in, and they have really good coffee creations. Like they'll have different coffees, combination stuff like every different month or season.
Cool. Yeah. Nice. All right. Can you think of a time, like either the last time or any time that you laughed so hard you cried or just couldn't stop, or something that makes you just lose it?
I mean, the hardest I've ever laughed, I know that, which is like my friend Austin improvised an entire Disney Channel movie for like an hour, like with the commercials, just in front of not even at a show, just like we were at a dining hall at UCLA, and it was after a stand-up show. And we just made him keep going. He was like, "You guys want to do an improv game?" And then he did all of it. He improvised an entire, and it was so vivid. I know like the whole plot and everything. It was ridiculous.
That's awesome though. Yeah, and it's a good memory. You guys can just go back
and the
to
commercials. He did the commercials too. Like it was crazy.
That was crazy. All right, and then who inspires you right now?
Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
And James Baldwin,
Cool.
Pat Riley. Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Those are the books. I mean, those are also like books I'm reading, but I'd say Leonard Cohen above all, because like his philosophies on everything are exactly what I'm aspiring. It just makes it's like, oh yeah, this guy was not a terrible dad and didn't hate himself all the time, and he was an entertainer.
I heard some stuff about him on different podcasts and it sounded pretty cool. Like, just it's always like those people that you appreciate more once they're gone, because that's when you're learning about them, right?
Oh man, this interview books, like everything's gold.
Huh. That's awesome. All right, and so I know you talked about leaving social media. Is there anything you want people to look up if they want to know more about you?
Yeah, just like let's go on my Spotify and then go on my website. Okay. My website and my Spotify, and like I'm gonna be developing a Patreon, and like so I'm gonna be just like I'm in the process of migrating everything. Like I'm archiving everything I've ever done and moving it. Yeah.
Cool.
But my website is nathanmosherisgoodenough.com. And so that's going to be over time, have more and more stuff on it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me this week. You can find out more about our guest in the show notes. The music you're probably moving to by now is by Joe Mafia. Find him on Spotify. That's Joe, Maffia. And Rob Metke is responsible for our visual design. You can find him online by searching for Rob, Metke. Thanks, Rob. Let us know who you'd like to hear from or about your own experiences defining yourself outside of work at More Than Work Pod on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Give us a follow. Or visit our website at rabiasaid.com. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening to More Than Work. We'll be back next week with another guest. In the meantime, while being kind to others, don't forget to be kind to yourself.